Welcome to the No Guilt Fangirls Podcast, where liking what you like is never a bad thing. Here's your host and head fangirl in charge, Patty Holiday.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to the No Guilt Fangirls Podcast. I am your host and head fangirl in charge, Patty Holiday. And since it is Wednesday morning, you know what day that is. It is Schitt's Creek recap day. And as always, I have my friend Jamie on with me to talk about this episode. Hey, Jamie, how's it going?
Hey, good. How about you?
Great. I'm sure you can tell by the smile in my voice, because I do believe you can hear a smile in my voice. I loved this one. Did you love this one?
So much.
So much. Okay.
So much.
So last night was episode 7, if I'm not mistaken, and this one was called Moira's Rosé. If you listen to our previous episode, neither one of us were I mean, you know, we love the show, period, but we weren't, I don't know, there was something kind of missing. Well, anything that was missing was definitely there in this one. I mean, I laughed, I cried. I had all the moments. Let's talk about this episode. And before we get there, I do just want to remind everybody, obviously, I think if you clicked on this, you probably know and can read and saw that it says spoilers everywhere. But I want to verbally remind you that that's what this show is all about. We are going to talk all about the episode that we just watched, Schitt's Creek. This is the last season of the show. We love it so much. And yeah, we got to talk about each one as it comes out. So that's what we're doing. If this is not for you, that's cool. Go ahead and bop away. There's a lot of other great fangirl podcast things that you can listen to, and I'd love it if you'd stick around and pick something else to listen to. But if you're watching like we're watching, then let's talk about some Schitt's Creek. And Jamie, give us a little recap. What happened? What was the episode about?
So we opened to David and Patrick watching baseball at the motel, and David was doing his best to be a supportive fiance and let Patrick have his day. Only to a few seconds later, Moira comes in with some exciting news about the winery. And, Patrick wasn't fooled for long and let them go off on a little wine tasting adventure. So off they went because the winery was going to name a wine after Moira because they love The Crows Have Eyes. So that was all very exciting news. And then we also see Alexis is kind of hosting a girls' day. They're in some interesting workout gear. And it almost kind of seems like a spa. But then it comes to find out, we're getting a little creepy vibes because you could tell pretty early on this is a cult. So
that it was.
Yeah. Alexis mentions that she gets a bonus for every member that she signs up, but that was quite interesting. They were climbing their way towards the gateway, so to speak, with their leader Citrus.
All of it was so ridiculous, from Citrus's name to the Stairmasters to the outfits. Yeah, yes. Come on, Alexis, clue in, baby.
And try to work out on it. All of it was just crazy. And then we see Johnny and Roland at the motel, and Roland kind of mentions having a father and son-in-law talk with Patrick since Patrick's alone watching the baseball game, which poor Patrick, that's all he wants to do is sit and have some pizza and beer and watch some baseball. And the Roses just aren't that family. Johnny comes in he's trying real hard to have a moment with him, and Patrick just wants to watch the game and doesn't really see what's coming at that point. So then we go back to the winery, and David and Moira are having a good time.
Yes, they are.
The wines are not the greatest, so they're trying to mix and match and find that perfect, as Moira said, a potable combination that you can actually drink. And then, we kind of bounce back and forth, but I think the moment that Patty alluded to is the part that made at least me and my husband, I don't know if I should admit that, sorry Jeff, cry, is Patrick and Johnny had just the all-time sweetest moment. Patrick could kind of tell that Johnny wanted to have a talk with him, and he kind of took the pressure off and said, I'm going to take care of your son and I'm going to love him. And it was just the sweetest. So I really love that. And then back to the spa day, Alexis figures it out and tries to get everybody out of there as quick as possible. And I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit later. Moira and David have just the sweetest moment together at the winery, and then have to come picked up because they are pretty drunk.
Yeah, and that was pretty epic. That
Yeah.
was there's so many points in this episode that I just loved, and I just kept thinking, yep, there it is. That's it. This is
Yep.
this is how much and why we love like we do when it comes to Schitt's Creek. I think the two things that really stood out to me are the two things that you mentioned as well, and that was, first of all, that David and Moira kind of had their little side story planned, and they fooled nobody. I mean, Patrick knew exactly what was up, and he was like, nice try, guys, go ahead and go, bye.
Yeah.
And it was just really cute the way they were trying to play that off, kind of teamed up like they used to in the old days, is the way I was watching that.
Yep.
And then their whole time at the winery, it struck me, it reminded me, of course, the whole thing. Is it season 1 or season 2 where we get the speech about how I like the wine, not
Season 1.
the label? Yeah.
Yep.
So I do love that we are kind of having this little, Easter egg throwback for the fans that have watched this, that we are back to talking about wine and what makes a good wine. And Moira is the one this time who kind of pulls that analogy out, and she talks about how her grapes and David's grapes are very similar, and how Johnny and Patrick's grapes are similar, but that Moira's like, for the last 40 years, your dad and I have made a really beautiful blend together. And of course, David's like, ew. But the point is not lost on him that, basically his mom was gently saying, you do have to take care and give Patrick some attention. It's easy for us, being the kind of people that we are, to want all that attention, but those others, our partners, need that too. And I just love that she had this, mother-son moment with him to just remind him, as you're venturing off, that this relationship is going to be a wonderful, beautiful thing, but it's not all about you, David. And coming from Moira, that's
right.
That's pretty impressive. And I've always said that all along with her, is that her and Johnny's relationship was just so awesome to me. I've just always adored how they were. It was so clear that they're both just smitten with each other and would do anything for each other, even though she is who she is. That was part A of my favorite part of this show. And then part B was, of like what you mentioned, the Patrick and Johnny sitting down and having their discussion. I had tears. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Oh, he gets David. This, and I was basically mirroring what Johnny was doing, because Johnny was like so relieved that his son is so precious to him, that he found somebody who really gets that and understands those special needs that, being a partner to the Moira Rose of the family, to the David Rose of the family, that's going to be kind of hard on you, Patrick. But Patrick was like, oh, I've got this. And that also reminded me of, Patrick when we first met him. And my favorite Patrick line of all time will always be the, oh, I'll get the money, right? And this gave me shades of that Patrick again, that very confident, very, he may not always be the confident one in this relationship, but then he comes out where he's like, oh, I know what I'm going to do, and I know what my role is. And anyway, it was just awesome. It was such a well-written episode, and then so well acted. I did quickly run through it a second time before we talked, and basically just watched Dan Levy the entire time.
Oh my gosh. So it took us probably about time and a half to watch it, because either my husband or I would say, okay, now rewind it and only watch David.
Yes.
Okay, now rewind it. because his expressions, oh my gosh,
He
are
was so good. The reactions, the expressions, everything was 100% classic David in this episode. Even from the start to the end, from the very beginning where he's talking with Patrick about baseball, which he
yeah.
clearly doesn't care, doesn't know
Nope.
anything about, whatever, to the very end where he is giving Alexis crap. That whole like sleepover scene was the most adorable. That is going to be one of my top favorite scenes
Yes,
out
for
of
sure.
when this series wraps up, for sure in this season, but so far I will even give it series wide. That's one of my favorite scenes because everybody got in on the act, and there was Patrick just. He's sitting there doing what we all do in bed, which is scrolling on his phone, but he's listening to what's going on, and he's just got this smile on his face. Even that, like Noah Reed just nailed it. I was in love with this entire episode, as you can tell.
Yes, I marked this one already as this is one of my for sure many times because I have, I've seen the whole series several times, but I have
Hmm.
a few episodes like you do that are my go-tos, and this is for sure going to be one of them.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And as much as we loved the whole Moira, David, Patrick, Johnny, thing, uh, even the cult situation was hilarious. And poor Alexis is she's still kind of trying to find her way, and she's just, still not. I don't know. She's still trying to find her grounding. She knows what a cult is. She's been in them before, I
Right.
think. This girl
There's
has
no doubt.
lived,
There's no
and
doubt.
the fact that she really kind of missed it, but I loved so much that she also was like, oh no, we're getting out of here, I got to get you all out of here.
Yes.
We're, it just proves again how much she has changed and grown. She
Yep.
didn't even leave Twyla, who was fully on board and was ready to sign up for
Poor
the cult.
sweet Twyla. She's like, oh, I knew this was a cult. I was just trying to support you.
I know. I know. What a friend. Everybody should have a friend like Twyla. Maybe not.
I mean,
Maybe
they
not.
were all, even Ronnie is like, I'm taking the waters. I'm taking the crystal water with me.
I know. I
And
know.
poor Jocelyn said, I just need to finish filling out my social security number.
Don't do it, Jocelyn. I wrote down in that one the quote that made me laugh so hard was, hold on, let me find it here because I wrote it down. I got to see where I wrote it.
I bet I have the same one written down.
We probably do. Oh, they're on the Stairmasters, and they
Uh-huh.
say, "Who are we leaving behind? Everything and everyone."
See, okay, that is not the one I wrote down, but it is amazing. The one I wrote down when she was asking him, did you
Carbs.
mean literal demons? Yeah. She's like, we all have demons. Carbs, am I right?
Yes, I wrote that down too. Yeah, there were some. This again, this episode had a ton of great quotes in it, and absolutely is worth watching over and over and over again. Yeah, so there was just a lot of sweetness and a lot of wonderful points here. And again, Patrick, I just got to go back to what he says. He's like, I promise to respect him and to protect him, and there are many things that can to protect him from things that can set him off in this world. And there are many, many things that can set him off. And Johnny's just like, just the look on his face and the smile and the nodding of, oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, I know. All of it was so good. Okay. All right. And also radishes. Um, radish fruit wine. Ew.
Yes. And he would not let the radishes go.
I know. I said radish. It was great. It was great.
One more thing, because I don't know if
Yes.
you caught this, but the bubbly water, did you watch those commercials?
Oh, I didn't know.
Okay, go back and watch them because they changed their tagline to include the word instead of, because they would change it to buble.
Yeah.
Well, now they changed it to bebe.
Oh, stop it. They did not.
Yes, they did. And there's one whole commercial with just Moira saying bebe.
Excellent.
Yes, so
Excellent.
go back and watch it.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna see. Okay, Schitt's Creek has me going back to watch the commercials. Well done. Well done, Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are gonna wrap this one up. Next week looks so good too. We're back to wedding planning again.
Oh my gosh.
And guess who's gonna be in that episode?
Ray the photographer.
Ray the photographer, the wedding photographer. And of course, you know my Disneyness. I cannot help but express my Disneyness at all times. I had to laugh so hard because the snippet that we saw, David says something along the lines of, "Please don't make us look like people that would get married in a theme park." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, David, Disney does some very tasteful weddings, okay?"
And I don't know if you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I don't.
Okay, well, if you go out on Schitt's Creek Twitter account, Dan Levy was on the Kelly Clarkson show with
I did see some of that.
with Stephanie Beatrice today.
Oh, I didn't see all of it. I just saw like the snippet of him when they were talking about her being in her music video.
Okay. So that clip, it'll make your heart just kind of melt. They talk about like representation and what they
Okay.
mean to each other, and it's just beautiful. So
Awesome.
check it out.
Awesome. All right. All right. Well, that's it for now. We will be back next week with more Schitt's Creek. And I think though this episode marks our halfway to the end point,
I
right?
know.
Isn't this, I think it's 14 episodes long and we're now halfway through.
Yep.
And oh my gosh. All right. Well, we're gonna think about that tomorrow. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for fangirling with us and fangirling Schitt's Creek, and of course, all things Dan Levy as always. And we are probably gonna go find some of that Moira's Rose Merlay. What was they trying to call it? Moira's
Yeah.
and all
I
kinds of
couldn't
crazy.
follow their drunk ramblings, but I
Yeah.
want one of those bottles so bad.
Moira Rosling or the Moira Low. Yeah, that's what she was saying. Yeah, we're gonna go find some of that fruit wine and see how that goes. But we will be back again next week, so we'll see you guys then.